In this lesson you will learn how to find the lateral and surface area of three-dimensional figures. The first figure is a cube. In a cube, all of the sides are equal. The difference between lateral area and surface area is you can think of lateral area as being the walls of a building. The surface area are the walls of the building, but also the ceiling and the floor. So when you're finding the lateral area, you're finding the area of four faces that make up the walls. But when you find the surface area, you're including the ceiling and the floor. Two additional sides is why the formula is 6s squared. The next figure is a rectangular prism. And once again, the lateral area are the four walls. So the formula is P times H. P represents the perimeter of the base. The base is your ceiling and your floor. So when you're finding the perimeter, you're adding up all the sides of either the ceiling or the floor. When you're finding the surface area, there are two formulas for a rectangular prism. One formula is 2 times the area of the base plus perimeter times the height, or 2 times length times width plus 2 times width times height plus 2 times length times height. If you use the first formula, 2b plus ph, notice how the ph is just the lateral area. So once the lateral area is calculated, all you have to do is add 2 times the area of the base. For the triangular prism, the lateral area is perimeter times the height, and the surface area is 2 times the base plus perimeter times the height. So once the lateral area is calculated, you just add to it 2 times the area of the base. And the base in a triangular prism, think of a ceiling and a floor. You want your ceiling and floor to be parallel to each other and the same shape. So you would have to turn this figure over on its side so that one of these red rectangles would represent the floor. The lateral area of a pyramid is 1/2 P times L. L represents the slant height, and the slant height is this red line right here. It is the perpendicular length of one of the faces of the pyramid. P is the perimeter of the base, and the base is this square. Think of your floor. Surface area is 1/2 P times L plus the area of the base. So the lateral area is this part right here. For a cylinder, the lateral area is 2 pi RH, and the surface area is the 2 pi RH, the lateral area, plus 2 pi r squared. Cone, the formula is pi RL for lateral area. L represents the slant height, and the slant height is this line right here. Surface area is pi RL, which is just the lateral area, plus pi r squared. And for the sphere only has a surface area because if you use the analogy of ceiling and floor, a sphere does not have a ceiling and a floor, so it only has a surface area. So the directions are to find the lateral and surface area. And in this first shape, we have a cube. And the formula for the lateral area of a cube is 4s squared. Each side is equal to 3.1. So for my lateral area, I take 4 times 3.1 squared, and if I take 3.1 times 3.1, I get 9.61, and 9.61 times 4 is equal to 38.44, and the units for lateral area for this cube is centimeters, and lateral area is always in square units. Next, we want to find surface area, and surface area of a cube is equal to 6s squared. We already know that each side is equal to 3.1, so we're going to take 6 times 3.1 squared, and we also know that 3.1 squared is 9.61, so underneath, if I take 9.61 times 6, I get a surface area of 57.66 centimeters squared. So lateral and surface areas are always in square units because we're finding the area of the faces. For number 2, we have a rectangular prism. So I always like to write the name of the shape on top, and then once I write the name of the shape, I write the formula starting with lateral area, and the formula for lateral area is P times H. H is 14. You want to think of your height as the distance from your ceiling to your floor. So the height of this prism is equal to 14, and the perimeter is the perimeter of the base, and the base is the ceiling and the floor. So if I were to find the perimeter, I would have to take 1.2 plus 6 and multiply it times 2. I want to add all 4 sides. So it's 2 times 7.2, and 7.2 times 2 is 14.4. So when I find the lateral area, it's 14.4 times 14, and for this calculation, I'm going to use my calculator. 14.4 times 14 is equal to 201.6. The units are in feet, and lateral area is always in square feet. So now when we find the surface area, the formula for surface area is pH plus 2b. So we have our pH, that's just the lateral area. Now we want to find b, and b is the area of the base. To find the area of the base, since it's a rectangle, we take 6 times 1.2, which is 7.2. So my surface area is pH, which is 201.6, plus 7.2 times 2, because we want 2 bases, 201.6 plus 14.4 is equal to 216. And once again, the units are square feet. Now for a rectangular prism, we actually have two formulas that we can use for surface area. This only works for a rectangular prism. The other formula is 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. And we've already identified the height as being 14. I'll make the length 6 and the width 1.2. If you mix up the numbers of width and length, your formula will still work out to the same answer. So if I substitute these values in, I have 2 times 6 times 1.2 plus 2 times 6 times 14 plus 2 times 1.2 times 14. So I'm going to multiply each of the three groups together and then add the three numbers at the end. So 2 times 6 times 1.2 is 14.4, and then 2 times 6 times 14 is 168, and then 2 times 1.2 times 14 is 33.6, and now when I add them all together, I get 216. So if you were just asked to find surface area, you may want to find it using the second formula, but if you have to find both lateral and surface area, I think you might find it easier to use the first formula for surface area. But when we get to number 3, which is a triangular prism, we only have one formula for surface area. So once again, starting with lateral area, the lateral area for a triangular prism is perimeter times the height. And I'm going to make this h a capital H to show that the height is the distance between our bases. And your bases are your ceiling and floor. So my height is equal to 20, and the perimeter is the perimeter of the base, which are just those three sides added together, 5 plus 12 plus 13, and if I add those together, I get 30. So when I find the lateral area, I have 20 times 30, which is 600. The units are meters, and lateral area is always squared. Now for surface area, the formula is pH plus 2b. So the only thing that's missing is b. So b represents the area of the base, and the shape of the base is a triangle, and the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So I made these both lowercase to show that they represent the sides of the triangle. So 12 is the base of the triangle, and 5 is the height of the triangle. You don't want to confuse the height of the prism with the height of the triangle. So when I'm finding the area of the base, I'm just focusing on that red triangle. 1/2 times 12 times 5 is 1/2 of 60, which is 30. So the surface area is P times H, which we already know from the first part of the problem. The lateral area is 600 plus 2 times 30 is 600 plus 60, which is 660 square meters. For number 4, we have another triangular prism, and the formula for lateral area is P times H. For number 4, we have another triangular prism, and the formula for lateral area is P times H, and H is the distance between the bases. So here's one base, and this other one, I'm not going to shade it because I don't want to shade over the numbers. I'm just going to outline it in red. So that makes 15 the height, the distance between the ceiling and the floor. Now to find the perimeter of the base, I have to add up all the sides. But notice how not all of the sides are given. So this red line here is the altitude of the triangle, and it's a right triangle. So we have a height of 4, and this 6 is bisected by that altitude, so its length is 3. Since we have a right triangle, we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side, so that we'll be able to find the perimeter. So we have 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. And 25 is equal to c squared. So when I take the square root of both sides to solve for c, I get 5. So if this length is 5, then we know that this length is 5. So when we find the perimeter, it's 5 plus 5 plus 6, which is 16. So therefore my lateral area is 16 times 15, and 16 times 15 is 240. Our units are in inches, and it's square units. So now when I find the surface area, I start by writing the formula pH plus 2b, and I know pH is equal to 240, but b represents the area of the base. Our base is a triangle, and the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So going back to my triangle, this 6 is my base, and this 4 is my height. So the area of the base is 1/2 times 6 times 4, which is half of 24, and half of 24 is 12. So the surface area is P times H, 240, plus 2 times B, so 2 times 12, 240 plus 24 is equal to 264 square inches. For number 5, we have a pyramid. And to find the lateral area of a pyramid, the formula is 1/2 P times L. And P can be found by adding up all the sides of this base, so we have a square, so 4 times 6 is equal to 24. But to find L, L is not given because L is this red line right here. So since we know that this side here is equal to 6, this red line is bisecting the 6 to make a 3 so that we have a right triangle of 3, 5, and we're going to use this to find L. So once again, we need the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. So we have 3 squared plus L squared. 5 is the hypotenuse. So 9 plus L squared equals 25. And if I subtract 9 from both sides, I get L squared equals 16. So that L is equal to 4 when I take the square root of both sides. So knowing that L is equal to 4, I can now find the lateral area. 1/2 times P times L. I'm going to put both of these over 1 and cancel the 2 with the 24 and make it a 12. So that I have 12 times 4 is 48 millimeters squared. So now when I get to the surface area, half of the work is already done for surface area. We have 1/2 PL plus B. So the only thing missing from this formula is B. And the area of our base, the shape of our base is a square, so we're going to take side times side. So 6 times 6 is 36. And so the surface area is 1/2 PL, which we already found to be 48 plus 36. And when I take 48 plus 36, I get 84 millimeters squared. For number 6, we have a cylinder. And the formula for the lateral area of a cylinder is 2 pi RH. We'll leave all of these answers in terms of pi. So the radius is not given, but the diameter is 18, so the radius is very easy to find. We just divide the diameter by 2. So we have a radius of 9 and a height of 6. So we just plug the values in the formula. 2 times pi times 9 times 6. And we have 2 pi times 54, which is 108 pi. And then square feet. So now when I get to the surface area, I write the formula 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. So we already know that the 2 pi RH is 108 pi. So now we're just going to add on 2 pi times 9 squared. And 2 times 81 is 162 pi. And now as my final step, I'm going to add 108 plus 162. And I get a final answer for surface area of 270 pi square feet. Number 7 is a cone, and the formula for the lateral area of a cone is pi RL. L is the slant height, and it's this length right here which is not given. We have our radius is 6, but to find the length of L, we have a right triangle. And anytime you have a right triangle, often you'll use that to find one of the sides that are missing. So we have 6, 8, and L. So I'll use the Pythagorean theorem. This time we'll be finding C because L is the hypotenuse. So we have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals L squared. And just square each of the numbers and then add them together. And at the end, you take the square root of both sides and you get L is equal to 10. So the hard part for the lateral area is done. And so we plug it in the formula. Pi times 6 times 10 is equal to 60 pi square meters. And then the surface area of a cone is pi RL plus pi R squared. So we already know from the lateral area that pi RL is equal to 60 pi. We want to add that to pi times 6 squared. So we have 60 pi plus 36 pi equals 96 pi meters squared. And the last problem is the sphere. And the sphere does not have a lateral area, it only has a surface area, and the formula is 4 pi r squared. And the radius, we know, is 2.2. So surface area is equal to 4 times pi times 2.2 squared. The first thing I do is I take 2.2 and I square it. So when I take 2.2 and multiply it by itself, I get 4.84, and then as my final step, I multiply that by 4 to get 19.36 pi square yards.